Hey, it's Lauren. Today's video is all about drugstore makeup. And the best part of this video is I will be doing an entire face of makeup for $53. And I think it's, let me check, $53.92 total, okay? My biggest criteria when it came to selecting products to use for this video was that they had to be under $10, bonus points if they're under $5 each, and they had to be good. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got my face already prepped. I've got a layer of serum, moisturizer, SPF. That is it. There's nothing, oh, and a little lip balm. But other than that, there's nothing else on my face. So I'm going to zoom you in a little bit. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna start with that I actually really love is the Wet n Wild Bare Focus Tinted Hydrator. I have the shade Light Medium. This stuff is shockingly good. So when I was younger, I was pretty much always exclusively a drugstore girl, and it really wasn't until I was in my 20s, and well, that was more than I thought it would be. That's the only thing I don't like about this is the applicator. It can kind of like squish out a lot. You could always put it on your hands first. I just kind of like to swipe it on. I used to be pretty much exclusively a drugstore only girl until I had a little bit more of a budget to start playing with different types of makeup. And now, if you're on my channel, you probably know, like, I like a lot of luxury makeup. And I think what makes my perspective relevant and important is because I have that experience with higher end products, I can definitely tell you if a drugstore product lives up to the same standards as some luxury, and some of these products honestly do. So this tinted hydrator I really like because it's kind of like a CC cream. It gives me some coverage and it really cuts down on my redness. The finish of this, once it soaks in, is very natural. And what I like so much about this is the fact that it doesn't enhance texture. So I recently, again, bumped up my retinol, which can cause a ton of dryness and flakiness. And so for me, I really want something that will even out my skin without enhancing any texture. Thankfully, a lot of that flakiness has gone away, but I did use this kind of at my peak flakiness, and it did not make things look worse. But I actually love the finish of this. I find that it stays on all day. And honestly, I would pit it against some higher end foundations and tinted coverage products that I've used and spent, like, you know, close to 10 times as much on. But you can see, even if I have a little bit of a blemish, it definitely helps to reduce how obvious they look. It just lays very nicely on the skin. It's a nice even layer, and as it wears off, which it really doesn't, but I don't get separation through my T-zone or anything like that. It's actually pretty phenomenal. And this color is actually a pretty good match for me, but just for, you know, making sure, pull it down my neck a little bit. I didn't buy any drugstore brushes, by the way. This is a MAC 170, fantastic brush, by the way. Reason being, I already have a lot of makeup brushes. I really don't need to expand my collection there. I like what I have. But if you are looking for drugstore brushes, e.l.f. makes pretty good brushes, and also Real Techniques. I think if you can get their face buffing brush, good stuff. So the next thing I'm going to use is also from Wet n Wild. There's quite a bit of Wet n Wild in this video because it is still one of the most affordable drugstore brands you can find that has products that are good. So this is the Megalast Incognito Concealer. I have the shade Light Beige. This is $4.29. And I have to be very honest with you guys, this stuff is shockingly good. Like, good enough that I would pit it against some of my MAC concealers that I really love and that have really great coverage. This shade is maybe a pinch light, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm trying to brighten up some of these little spots that I have. What's great about this concealer is that the coverage is really, really good. It also is not a super creasy formula, and it's more on the matte side, but it doesn't make me look crusty. Look at the coverage of this, watch. It's insane. And much like the Tinted Hydrator, this really does last all day. Just really brightens things up. I think some of the products that shocked me the most on this drugstore adventure, because I haven't used a ton of drugstore products in the last few years, is how good the base products are. Shockingly good. I really wanted to do this video because I don't want my content to be just a luxury beauty channel. My goal with what I do is to find products that work at a variety of price points. I think especially in today's economy and with inflation and just generally how expensive everything has gotten, that's why this video is so important to me, because no matter your budget, I still want you to be able to find products that you enjoy using and that make you feel beautiful. I don't think you have to break the bank to feel beautiful or pretty or put together or whatever your goal is with makeup. I think we all have different goals with what we want our makeup to do for us. So look at that though. So good. Nothing is enhanced texture-wise, just really evened everything out. I have a very pretty glow going on. Really, really a big fan. So the next product is one that I have used on my channel forever, basically, and that is classic Cody Airspun. I think this stuff is better than a lot of high-end powders that I have bought over the years, because it has a way of setting your makeup and taking down a little bit of that shine where you don't want it without being cakey or heavy. So Cody Airspun is $5.79. You get an enormous container of it. And I'm gonna use another MAC brush, just sort of dipping in here. Watch. It gives you this airbrushed finish. Just softly blurs your face. It's just such a flattering product. Yes, it does smell like your grandmother because your grandmother probably did use this. But it's a fantastic product. It's withstood the test of time. You'll notice I'm just patting through my T-zone. I'll pull a little bit of that over my cheek just because I am going to use a powder blush and I don't want it to stick to my base. Sometimes if you don't set your cheeks and you're gonna go over them after you've applied a foundation and you're going to use a powder blush, sometimes when you make that first swipe, it can really stick to the foundation. So it's always nice to have a light coating of powder so things glide a little bit better. And you know what? I actually forgot one more thing that I'm going to do. I tried this out the other day and it worked really, really well. Normally I don't do this, but with this particular formula, I felt like this would be a good eye primer. So I'll take just a little tiny dot of that Incognito concealer on each eye. Helps to brighten your eye area and cancel out any discoloration that you may have, which I do tend to be a little more blue and purple from my veins. And I'll just buff this in and I'll get it all over my lid, all the way up to here. I feel like this formula in particular is a little oil absorbing, which surprised me because so many concealers make things slide around more on me if I use them as a primer. But this one in particular does a really beautiful job of keeping things in place. So I'm gonna just take my Cody Airspun and just lightly dust over that. The same philosophy of I'm going to use a powder product on my eyes and I don't want things to stick the second that I start putting them on. Look at that base though. That is like, I'm genuinely shocked at how far drugstore products have come since I was a solid drugstore product user myself. Like, my face did not look like this before when I used to use things like Wet n Wild. I'm just blown away. Absolutely beautiful. In fact, even since we've been home from our trip that I took only drugstore makeup, I've been still reaching for this as my base product. It's beautiful. The next product that I'm going to use on my face is this e.l.f. Priming Bronzer. This was $7, and it's a really nice shade. It's not overly orange leaning. It has a very natural effect. For this bronzer, I'm going to use a brush that is a little bit more stiff than my traditional blush bronzing brush that I use, because this product tends to go on a little bit more sheer. So to pick up more of that product, I want a little bit stiffer of a bristle than what I normally use. So this, what I liked so much again, was the tone of it, but also the fact that it was not shimmery. I like more of a matte bronze, and the Wet n Wild bronzer was very, very shimmery, like looked like a copper penny, and it was just so not cute. It was not what I was going for at all. You can see that's incredibly, incredibly sheer, but it has a really nice tone and I really like it. I will say I was pretty surprised that an e.l.f. product is as expensive as it is now. And I think it's just kind of unfortunate, honestly, the fact that drugstore prices have gone up so much. Sometimes it almost makes sense to spend a couple more dollars and get more of a mid-range product because you're going to get a better quality. But I do think, you know, for $7, this is a pretty good bronzer. It gives a very pretty natural color. That's the other thing that made this particular challenge that I did for myself so interesting, is because a lot of drugstore products now are well over $10. That was honestly just kind of depressing. In all fairness, the quality of a lot of products has gone up a ton. But still, I mean, like I mentioned, sometimes you could just spend a couple more dollars and, you know, get more of a mid-range product that might have a slightly better quality. So for my eyes, I am going to come back and do cheeks in a minute. But first, I'm going to do my eye makeup. I didn't get a drugstore palette for my eyes, and here's why. I've had a few over the last few years, and none of them really have wowed me. I think sometimes, you know, like I mentioned, it's worth spending a few extra dollars to get more of a mid-range product because the quality is better. And I definitely feel like that is true with eyeshadows. I just haven't been impressed with some of the eyeshadow palettes that I've had. I had an e.l.f. one, it was maybe $2, which it was fine. I just didn't really get excited about it. And then I've also had some NYX ones, and I just also don't really love those. Personally, for me, I would much rather spend, you know, a little bit more and get a nicer palette than a lot of the drugstore palettes that are available. So for my eye look, what's going on here? For my eye look, what I have done is I've taken that bronzer and I've used a somewhat loose, fluffy brush and used that as my crease shade for some definition. Like so. It's just very soft. I sort of put that in the socket and blend out as I come up using a windshield wiper motion. The next thing I like to do is take that same brush and pinch it so it's flat, get some product on there, and use it under my eyes for, again, more definition. It's just very soft. Because of the tone of this bronzer, I think it actually works very nicely as kind of that crease transitional shade. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do two things. I'm going to use this. This is the Blushlighter from Wet n Wild. I have the shade Flash Me, and I'm going to use my blush brush. It's a blush and a highlighter, okay? Here's the thing. I love the blush as a blush. I don't love the highlighter as a highlight, and the reason for that, I'm not a Vegas showgirl. I like a much softer, more subtle highlight. But the reason that I bought this is because I recognized the blush would be beautiful as a blush and that highlighter would be beautiful as an eyeshadow. I really like this blush. It's not overly dusty, which kind of surprised me. A lot of powder products, pressed powder products from the drugstore have been dusty in the past. But this blush is extremely beautiful, and it actually reminds me a lot of a Chanel blush that I had before, and I can't remember the exact name, but it was like a rose something or other. This is maybe a pinch more shimmery than that, but I think it has like a very natural, like glowy flush to it, and I actually really like it. Because it has enough of that shimmer, it replaces the need for a highlighter on top. At least for me, I like how this looks. And I don't feel like that shimmer enhances texture too much. So this is a slightly looser brush than what I used for my bronzer. It just picks up a little bit less of that product. It's a Coyuto premium brush. I feel so bad because I love my Coyuto brushes, but they don't have the premium line anymore on Beautylish, which is where I purchased it from. So I'm really sorry if you're looking for these. You can find some of them on eBay. And there's a couple of retailers like Fude Beauty, but I have not ordered from them. So I'm sure it's fine, but these can be a little harder to locate now, and I'm sorry. I love that. I'll drag a little up here just to make me look a little more sun-kissed. So the next thing I'm going to do is use that highlighter pan, and I've kind of found I like doing this two ways. I like to use a kind of just a general application brush. And this one I find to be a little more dusty than the blush, unfortunately. But since we have primed our eyes, it's really not too bad of fallout. You can also use your finger for this. But it gives you this really pretty sort of peachy gold color. It's very natural with a little bit of a sheen to it. I really liked this as an eye color, an eyeshadow color. So this is what I've been doing. I've been putting it all over like this, bringing it into that inner corner just a little bit for a highlight. I don't like that highlight on my cheeks, but I do like it around my eyes because it just makes them a little more sparkly. Then I'll take my finger, coat it up with some of that product, and do a little bit of a tapping and dragging because it will deposit a little bit more of a metallic finish compared to just using the brush. You can see the difference between the two. It just builds up that pigmentation a bit. And I really, really like it. Very, very soft, simple look on the eyes because again, I didn't get that eyeshadow palette, but I really like how this looks. I'm gonna take my powder brush. There's really not much fallout with this, but just to be on the safe side. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do my brows. I got the Essence Make Me Brow Mascara. I have the shade, I believe it is 05 Chocolatey Brows. I often struggle to find brow products that are warm enough to work with this kind of auburny shade that I've got. This one has enough warmth that it doesn't look odd. So what I like to do with this is come in on the top and start filling. I will take the very tip of this and drag it on the skin. It creates sort of hair-like strokes, and that's why I do that. And then I go back in and I lift. This product is only $3.99 and it's really, really good. I've used the e.l.f. Wow Brow in the past, but most of their shades are very, very cool leaning, and just with my hair now, I really try to have something with a little bit of warmth, because a lot of companies don't make shades for redheads or, you know, anybody with auburn hair. They just want us all to use brown or blonde. But you can see it has a really nice natural definition to my brows. They don't look out of place with my hair color. And I like this stuff a lot. It holds really well, and it didn't melt off when I went hiking, which is always a plus. Whoops. Wipe that off while you can. I feel like when you go downward on your brows first and then you go back in and lift, it's gonna help to create more volume and really coat each brow hair. I love a brow gel like this though, because it's just such a quick, natural way to fill and sculpt your brows. Cool, let's move on. This product is shockingly good. It is a liquid liner. It is the Megalast Breakup Proof from Wet n Wild. It is just pure black. This was $5.29. What I like about this, it doesn't leak product. I've had high-end liquid liners that leak product, annoyingly. It also has a brush tip. So if you've ever used the Glossier, I think it was like, I don't know if it's Liner Slick or what it is, but theirs is also a little brush tip, which is really nice if you like a really tiny line, which I do. When I line my eyes with liquid liner, because I have deep set eyes and not a ton of lid space visible, I like to be very, very close to my lash line, and then I create just a little tiny baby wing. So let me go ahead and get this on. And I start really from the middle here. This brush tip is so tiny that you can create an extremely fine line, but you can even see between this eye and this eye, even with that just teeny tiny bit, it adds so much definition to your lash line. Another thing I'll say about liquid liner, one of the things that I've noticed with my own eyes is the outer edge of my lid sort of has this little like flappy bit that comes down around the bottom edge of my lower lash line. You can see how it kind of angles down. So what I do, I try to keep my liner very straight and kind of creating a line that's just a soft flick. But I do try to come up from the bottom of that little fold that I have. And in doing so, I just feel like it gives me the most flattering liner shape. But I love using a pen like this for more of that little tiny cat eye look, because it looks like a little flare of lashes. You can still see my lid space, which is what's so important to me with a liquid liner. Okay. You'll also notice when I do liquid liner, I really just rest it on my lashes horizontally and sort of drag. It's almost like stamping, and it makes it a lot easier if you struggle with liquid liner. So finding the bottom of that little fold and drawing outward. You always want to look for the balance. I'm a little thicker over here than I am here. And so to even that out, I'm going to create a little bit more weight through the top here. A little better. Now we need to balance up that curve. Maybe a little more winged up here. This is the one bad thing about liquid liner. You just have to find that balance. That is about as close as I'm going to get it. I'm gonna pull a little bit more on that inner portion of my eye. Okay, I feel good with this. Oh, I do love a cat eye though. I used to do this all the time, like when I was younger, and it used to be so much easier, but you know, your face changes through the years and your eyes shift and it's not as easy as it used to be, but it does get easier with some practice. So the mascara that I'm going to use is one that has always been a drugstore favorite of mine. I just haven't had it in a while. And that is Maybelline Lash Sensational, but the original, not the Sky High. I don't like the Sky High as much because the brush is super flexible. You'll notice with this brush, you're not getting like a super wiggly wand. The Sky High, you can really like flex. And I don't like that type of wand because they tend to fling upwards. And especially when you have long lashes, I just don't like it. I also like that this is a curved shape because I find that it really helps to lift and sort of curl my lashes. So this is the shade, I believe it's just Very Black or Blackest Black maybe. And this was the most expensive product that I bought. It was $8.99 and I'm very proud of that. It's so hard to find inexpensive drugstore products that are really good for under $10 now. Everything is so expensive. This brush does such a phenomenal job of gripping my lashes. And the other thing I love so much about this, it grips the lashes, it creates a very natural, curved, flared appearance, and this mascara wears really, really well all day long. I am someone who tends to struggle with smudgy, oily eyelids, and I have found this combination between having that concealer as my base and this mascara just also being probably one of the best drugstore mascaras I can think of. Really keeps things from smudging around. I have to be very honest, this mascara outperforms mascaras at much higher price points. So the other thing I like to do because of this wand, you've got the shorter, tighter bristles sort of on the bottom, and then on the top edge of the arc, you can see they are longer. I like to use the top rounded edge to separate my lashes, and I also find that this really helps to lift them even more. And this brush just, it really does a great job of catching those outer lashes. Do the same thing. You'll also notice I haven't re-dipped yet. It holds a really great amount of product on it without getting clumpy. I feel like this mascara, it sort of takes care of your lash curler, mascara, lash separator, all in one. And I also feel like it gets really close to the root of those lashes to make your lash line look thicker. Then I'm going to take whatever is left on the brush at this point, which there's really not a ton, and I'm going to use that on my lower lashes. I love this mascara. It's so good. I actually did pretty good and didn't make a big mess on my eyelids. Just one little tiny bump right there. Get that off of there. Now it's time to finish up with lip products. So for my lip liner, I got this LA Girl Perfect Precision, and the shade is Sugar and Spice, and it actually is very, very close to being like Max Spice. Max Spice is a little more terracotta, where I feel like this has a bit more pink, but This pencil is only $2.99. It's a regular size pencil and the formula is really, really nice. Let me show you. It's not going to move around a lot on most people, which is why I think it's so great. So let me line my lips and we'll finish out this video. It's a great color. It's a little bit of like a kind of a warm peach on me. And the last product that I'm going to use has been a longtime favorite of mine. That is the NYX Butter Gloss. I got the shade Sugar High, which pairs really beautifully with this lip color, which is kind of funny. You've got sugar and spice and then Sugar High. Like clearly we have a theme here. It's kind of like a caramelly burnt sugar. But these are only $5. They usually have a really good color payoff and they're super, super comfortable and moisturizing. Just so you can see this without something underneath it, I'll put that over here on my hand. Beautiful, light, pinky peach. It's just a great color. That is my full drugstore face. I am so impressed with almost all of these products. Like I mentioned throughout the video, some of these well outperform higher end products, and I have been really pretty shocked. The whole face. $53.92. I have spent more on eyeshadow palettes than I have for my entire face of makeup. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. So if you are looking for some drugstore makeup products, highly recommend looking into everything I used in this video. All of this wears beautifully. I took this all to the mountains for our Thanksgiving trip. I wore this out hiking, getting sweaty, being out and about, and everything held up really, really well. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you are not subscribed to my channel and you want to see more content like this, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up if you like this video, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.